Thank you, Mr. White. Welcome, everyone, to the January 9th, 2020 meeting of the Wareham School Committee. If we could just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I just need to make an announcement that this is currently being recorded by WCTV, and also Ms. Ruiz is making an audio recording as well. If anyone in the audience is recording, you just need to notify the chair. Just let me know. Seeing none. Also, Ms. Morgan couldn't be with us tonight. She twisted her ankle really badly. I got a message before the meeting that she wouldn't be able to make it. She regrets not being here. Public participation. Anyone? All right. Seeing none. And just to let folks know, if you don't know, at our last school committee meeting, we voted to allow public participation during the agenda items. So if you see me, look up during an agenda item and call in the public, feel free to come down, or if you want to just raise your hand and let me know if you want to come down, generally after we've deliberated as a committee. Thank you. Good news. Dr. Schwam.
We've joined the MCIEA, which is a organization that's looking at performance-based assessments as a possibility to better test our students overall. So there's a big group of people, or a moderate group of Massachusetts schools that have joined this consortium. We are part of this consortium. The union had to vote it in. We were voted in at the end of last year. And 3 of our staff members are now going to become vetters of performance-based assessments, which is kind of exciting. So there'll be 3 members of our team going to the training. There are 2 trainings, and then they'll be able to look at the different assessments to make sure that they're rigorous, standard-based, and that they follow the protocol. And because of the work that we've done, we were able to upload today 17 of those performance-based assessments, grades 7 through 12, in all subjects to the portal that's asking for them, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, that does. That sounds exciting. I'm a data guy myself. So, any more good news, Ms. Bakayaki?
Excuse me. I just wanted to say good luck to our DECA students who left today to compete at the districts in Hyannis. And then I just had a really short story. Over the weekend, I was out doing errands Saturday morning, and I ran into a teacher. She teaches some of our youngest students. And she was there. She was out looking into getting something for one of her students. And it just reminded me, which we hear all the time, but it just reminded me that our students are full of teachers and staff who go above and beyond their school day for their students all the time. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you.
Absolutely.
She knows who she is.
Absolutely. And thank you for sort of stealing my thunder. I was going to mention the districts as well. I saw that on Twitter. They had posted it and saw a picture of them all on the bus or whatever, and that's just a good time of year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else? No. All right. Report of the student representative.
Hello. So also about DECA. DECA's the talk of the town now. So it's gonna be really fun to see who comes home with awards, because there's such it's such a big group. Like today, all of my classes, a big chunk of people were just missing, so many kids. So Saturday, the hockey team will be hosting its 2nd annual Blackout Cancer Night. It's a fundraiser on this Saturday at 8 at Gallo against Somerset Berkeley. Also on Saturday, so it's common for AP classes to have Saturday sessions at different high schools, but this year, the AP Calc class, we won't be hosting it, but the school will be. There's only 8 of us in the class, or something small like that, but on Saturday, so many people are going to show up. It's going to be really cool to see how that turns out. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, on to the minutes of the meeting, December 19th, 2019. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 400. Student Advisory Committee. Welcome.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Grace.
Grace who?
For Jolly. So this is the following that has happened since we last met in November. So we now have student advisory reps from each advisory in the school from grades 8 through 12, which will meet every Friday of the month discussing what has been going on and what can be changed to improve school climate. We are also sending out a survey to get more perspective from the students in our school for other ways to improve school climate. Since last year, there was a very good input and brought more things to our attention, and it ended up getting late buses back for students to use at the end of the term. Also, the message board is up in the cafeteria, and we have a flash drive to put in to display the announcements, such as upcoming events such as the snowball, and we're going to try to put sporting events up there too, since they are talked about in the morning. However, not everyone has the ability to hear them in the morning because of programs such as BSU.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Rossi?
Do you feel that having the message board up in the cafeteria you've seen a difference since you've started running the announcements throughout the day in the cafeteria as opposed to just having them in the morning?
We haven't actually started putting up our own announcements yet, but the credit union that sponsors it, they've been putting up messages like Happy New Year and stuff, and it's caught people's eyes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're on to the fall athletic report. Mr. Rodrigues.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hi. Several of our coaches are here and players, and I'll have them come up in a second. We had good participation in the fall, 140 students. GPA was phenomenal again, 88.2. A big highlight was the field hockey team winning 2 state tournament games. Volleyball team received the Team Conference Sportsmanship Award. And in general, things went fine, and we're looking forward to the winter season now is going well too. So that's basically what's all in the report. So, but if you want these other kids to come up here and stuff, and coaches,
Could we do that and then later discuss the
Sure.
report as a whole?
Sure.
Sure. Who would you like to bring up
Could I have
first?
the cheerleaders, Sophia and Mia, come on up, please. 2 of our cheerleaders.
Welcome. Hello. And who do we have?
Mia.
And Sophia Meniglia.
Okay.
So this cheer season was very successful for us. We did a lot of fundraising, and within just one of them, we raised over $3,000 with just a small team. And we also were very dedicated to community service. We went to both of the junior teams, Tigers and Junior Vikings, when we weren't at practice. And we kind of were like assistant coaches with them and did whatever their coaches asked us to do, and got to see them start to finish and see them win their competitions.
And for our season, we loved practicing our competition routine and all the other halftime routines we did at the games. And as a team, I think we grew a lot by working together for doing dances with the band and just working all around together and supporting our football team.
Okay. Any questions?
Any questions? Ms. Bakayaki.
Well, I think it's great that part of what you did for community service was to reach out to the youth and encourage them in your sport. I'm curious, the fundraising that you did, what were you able to do with that money that you
So
raised?
we want to get mats because school mats aren't like normal cheer mats are. They're a lot thinner. So we want to get those and get like team gear and uniforms and stuff like that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Did you guys participate in any competitions this year?
Yeah, we did one of the competitions. I forget where it was, but I think we did well for having not many people compared to the other teams, and it was just really fun to do.
Thank you.
So am I reading this right? You've got 9 members?
Yeah.
And it looks like 6 of them, 2/3 are 8th graders.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, the basketball one is a lot different. There's like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
20
Well,
girls.
good for them.
Yeah.
That's great.
They don't like the cold.
No, good for these guys. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, our football coach, Fran Cass.
Welcome.
Hello, nice to meet you all. We had our program get to about 4 wins this past year, our first year, as a team together, Mr. Palladino and Coach and I, Coach Rodrigues. We won 2 games the first year, had 4 games this year, so we're looking to continue with that progress. It's not something that happens immediately. It's a lot of work, building and rebuilding a program, but we hope to get there by a couple means. One of those is, as we focus on the varsity, we want to especially have some focus on the younger guys. You had a team for a few years that did very well on the varsity level, but we neglected your freshmen and sophomores. So what happens is you have some kids that have been on the team for 2 years and they kind of get beat up by the varsity as freshmen. They don't have games. So we've reinstituted, kind of an underclassmen program with freshmen and with a JV program, hoping that pays off over the next couple of years. So that's what we had this year, a little bit of progress, not as much as I'd like, but we're getting there and we hope to make more improvements next year, both on and off the field. I have next to me Dylan Turner, and Dylan would like to say a few words. I'm sure his mother would be proud of him.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello. You all look very important.
Well, Dylan,
You prompt me.
Dylan is very talkative at practice. I assure you he'll make up for it when he leaves here. But he's one of the younger group that I really look forward to coaching. They are especially passionate about the sport of football, and that's something that we really need a lot more of, and we hope to get it. So, any other questions that you might have?
Anyone? Ms. Bakayaki?
I'm just wondering if you've had an opportunity to interact with the youth football programs in town.
I have. In fact, that was one of the reasons that I applied for the job. A lot of the coaches that were on the staff, I had a past rapport with through semi-pro football and playing football, in high school against. So I have a great rapport with those guys, and we look to actually unify my system with the youth program this year. So in other words, the kids will have, the same plays coming up through the system. That's something that hasn't been done. We look to do that this year. But a lot of them are my friends, and I hope that they would steer the kids towards staying in their hometown on a real grass field. It's a great place, great tradition, and I hope that they keep the kids in the system.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rossi?
Well, as a parent of a player, I just want to say I loved the fact that you had the JV games back for the younger kids. A lot of times those 8th, 9th, and some 10th graders are kind of sidelined and dressed and not able to play, and especially I think that over the last few years that has made some people lose their love of the game because they're dressing and not playing. So I'm really glad to see, we had some really good successes for the JV team, and then a lot of those kids, mine included, got to play almost every varsity game, which was, I was pretty proud of a lot of the kids that had come up and the attitudes for the most part of all the kids that played, and they had, there wasn't I didn't notice a lot of bad sportsmanship from both the varsity or the JV team, so I thought that was a really nice thing to see whenever we traveled.
Yeah, I think we were 5-1 or we were 5-1.
We lost, yeah, 4-2.
So again, we did well in the underclassmen level, and that's, part of the plan.
Wait,
We
your
hope
mic
that,
isn't even on.
it bears some fruit. What's that?
Your mic isn't even on.
Oh, they can hear me just fine.
Yeah, I know they can hear you. Everyone can hear you. It's supposed. He would appreciate it if it was on.
Was on.
Oh, yeah, put the mic on.
Yeah, they're recording.
There we go, look at that.
Oh dear God.
See
I
that?
don't know why they had it off.
All right, yeah. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Fran. Thank you, coaches. Our girls soccer coach, Megan Cashner. Oh, and Evan. Our boys soccer coach, Evan Walker.
Yeah, we sprung that on you, sorry.
That's all right. No problem.
Hi, guys.
Welcome.
I guess I'll start off. Record-wise, we weren't fantastic this year, but our kids put in a full effort. We had participation throughout the entire season. Normally, you see one or two players drop off when results don't come their way, but we stayed the par, stayed the course, and I think they had a great time. I have a fantastic group of kids. I can't say, like academically, we had our highest GPA in my tenure here coaching. I want to say it's including tennis too, which it's impressive for a team that size. Tennis being a smaller one this year, we had my highest GPA. Yeah, I'm looking forward that we have a very young team. We still have a huge returning class of great players, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming season. I know that we have some more news to give you in a second after Coach Kashner goes.
Thanks. Our season, we won the games that we were supposed to, and we were competitive in the games that nobody expected us to be. It's kind of a David and Goliath type thing when we go up against these big schools, but for people that had come out and watched our games, you can see that our girls they're in it for every minute, and they compete beyond expectation, and I'm really proud of that. Another highlight is senior Abigail Berrialt was awarded a SEC All-Star, which is pretty incredible considering our record and just our overall record over the past few years. But for her to be recognized as an all-star among some really talented players in the league that are going to be going on to play in college, for her to be in that crowd I was really proud of her for that.
Yeah, that is incredible. And the high GPA for the boys is great. It's impressive, but right behind them is field hockey and volleyball, which is really good too.
I think we're at the top of the list, I'm not sure. Probably on the other page, but I'm here.
That's all the news.
Anyone else? Ms. Rossi?
I just want to say I was able to make it to one of the girls' games earlier this year, and you could see that the teamwork, the encouragement when girls are coming off the field, and it was really nice to see that they really worked together regardless of what the score showed. So it was a really good team to watch.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Can I just ask my same questions? So I'm just curious if you had the opportunity to work with the youth programs in town, the youth soccer programs.
Yeah, this year I play in a men's soccer league out of New Bedford, and the over 40s coach, which I know I'm over 30, which sounds old because it does to me now. The coach for them is actually the Wareham Bograts and youth soccer coach, so it's been fantastic because I see him every weekend. I get to talk about the kids. I attended, I think, two home games for the Bograts, and I spoke to Coach Vugan, who has a son that is in the younger age group, and we now have that younger age group playing at the varsity level. Sorry. So it was good to meet both those coaches and kind of link up and kind of figure out, who's coming down the wormhole and, in the future, and also who's going to be coming up next year to play. And overall, I think it's been awesome to communicate with them more often.
For me personally, I get to ref in the youth league, so I get to, see firsthand, the talent that's coming up through the youth league. But also I am able to coach. I've been coaching a team for about 3 years, and they're coming up, and a lot of our players' younger sisters are on that team, so that's kind of cool. So I get to pull in the older sisters when they come to practice. They love it. But that's been ongoing for a while.
Okay, thank you.
More exciting news. I'm very excited about it. we did a lot of homework and figured out some of our statistics from, past years and lumped those things together to present to Mr. Rodricks and the SEC. And we were granted a 2-year waiver to this year play 10 out of conference games against teams that, in our eyes, will be more competitive for our school. We are currently, like Coach Kashner said, a very small fish in a big pond. Soccer is a big sport in this area. And Wareham is a very, football, basketball-oriented school, and it has been for a long time. But this is going to really help us. We can select teams that really are the perfect teams for us to be playing. And those games that we kept are the same teams, the SEC, the small schools, Fairhaven, Bourne, Case, and Seekonk, which will be fantastic because we still get to see our SEC opponents. And it can only help retain kids because hopefully our records will improve drastically next season.
Rather than playing Division II size schools, we're going to be playing more appropriate.
Yeah, that is great news, just in time for my son to leave.
We had a lot of conversations about it, and I talked to the other athletic directors, and they graciously approved us to do this. It's all about, not even about winning, it's about being competitive, and hopefully this is going to help us quite a bit. They do a great job keeping the kids focused and in line, considering the chances of winning were slim in a lot of the games, and still the participation was great, practices were great.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do.
And so I try to attend a lot of sports, just in general, not just the ones my son's on, but I am at a lot of the ones that my son is on, meaning like soccer. And I want to just point out like an unsung hero, and that would be like the trainer. That the trainer does a great job.
He does.
Yeah,
he's very good.
Yeah,
he's got a great attitude. He's always available.
Yeah,
and we make him available for everything. And
yeah, I mean, people get hurt.
I'm very pleased with the trainer. We've had several trainers over the years, and he's been consistent now, and we're hoping that he will stick around for a while.
Yeah, I hope so too. He's great.
He goes above and beyond what he
very nice.
Really should be doing. So
very good kid.
Yeah. Just keep up the great work. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next, Marissa Smith with field hockey.
Hi, Sam Smith, field hockey coach.
Hi, I'm Grace Jolly, junior captain of the Wareham field hockey team, and talking to you about this year's season. So first, number of players. This season we didn't have the same numbers of players that we did in recent seasons, but this resulted in just having a varsity team midway through the season because of things such as injuries. Next, diversity of the team. So we were a very young team. We do offer a 7th grade waiver. Unfortunately, we didn't have any 7th graders try out this season, but hopefully we will next season. So our team resulted in players from grades 8 through 12. However, for just a varsity team, we were very young since most schools' varsity teams consist of juniors and seniors and maybe a few sophomores and freshmen. Our starting line down the stretch consists of 4 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 1 senior. This season, as most of you already know, we had 2 boys play field hockey, Q and Ian. This added new abilities to the team and a new perspective on the sport for both the team and our community. Next, community service. So we have been doing a youth clinic for the past 4 seasons. It makes an impact on youth, introduces the sport to the next generation, and this is something we do for 4 Saturdays during the season to get the younger kids in town to pick up a stick and gain interest in the sport. Other towns in the area offer town leagues for field hockey, so this is our way of trying to gain interest to the sport to the younger kids. This season we made tournament, which was a very exciting and fun experience for all of us. At the beginning of the season, we did have a rocky start, and we won a few games, but in the last stretch, we had to win 6 games in a row or tie in order to make tournament. The team felt the collective pressure that any other team would whilst in tournament in the last couple of weeks of the season due to the fact we knew we had no chance of making tournament unless we won consistently. The second half of the season, our team turned it around. This resulted in us winning our games and making it to tournament. It was a great experience for both the team and the community. We hope that this will help the future of Wareham field hockey by having more people come out to the games and trying out for the team. As I mentioned earlier, we had 2 boys play on the season's team, Q and Ian, and it has been a controversial issue that not only the boys face, but the whole team. However, you have to look at the big picture, and that is that field hockey is a co-ed sport. They don't offer a boys team, so they should be able to play on the girls team if they don't offer a boy program. People view this with a fixed mindset that boys are automatically better than girls at sports, and I think that is the main reason we face adversity during the season. However, in my opinion, they offered our team a different advantages on the field due to their athletic history, and we as a team could offer more as a field as a result. As captain, I am very proud with how the team dealt with the adversity we faced. We took the energy we took from the comments of others and we put it in the field as a driving force during games. It ignited a spark on the field that made a positive effect on the team, that made us grow stronger as a team on and off the field. Awards during the season was senior Kieran DeCanto III's SEC All-Star and Standard Time Super Team, freshman Marina Cadena SEC Honorable Mention Standard Times All-Star, freshman Madison Peckham, SEC Honorable Mention and Standard Times All-Star, sophomore Ian Clyde, Standard Times Honorable Mention, and myself, SEC Sportsmanship. I'm greatly looking forward to next year's season, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity and for your time.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Well, I don't have any questions because she just answered them all. Thank you, Grace. But I would like to say, like, you talked about freshmen, sophomore, so that just means that your future is bright. So.
Ms. Rossi?
And you touched on what I would have asked is how you guys overcame. I'd heard about some of the adversity of people saying, you know, possibly negative things about you guys having the boys on the team, and I think it's amazing that it just made you guys grow stronger as a team and work more to prove that they belong on the field. So that was great to hear.
Oh, Ms. Schwam, Dr. Schwam.
So if there's no girls' football team, then
Correct.
can
No,
girls
can play football if they
girls can
want
play
to.
football, or girls can play hockey and
Yes.
all those other sports as well? So it's open?
Yes,
Excellent.
And we just had a girl on a football team 2 seasons ago.
yeah,
And there's currently on the girls' hockey
Yes.
team as well.
yes.
Yes.
Hockey team, yes.
I mean, on the hockey team. I meant girls
I know.
on the hockey team was
I know,
what my brain was trying to say.
That's
It
all
just
right.
didn't come out.
Yeah. No, hey, great job, really. Like I said, you guys are right behind the boys soccer and the GPA, and that's impressive. But you were saying that you're a really young team, but I only see 2 8th graders.
Yeah, but mostly freshmen and sophomores.
Really? Oh, interesting. Good job. Yeah. Oh, Ms. Spear.
Is there other teams that have boys on them?
Yeah.
Is that like the?
This season, we only played one other team that had a boy on their team. 2, they had 2 actually, but it's common in the area. It's
Yeah,
becoming
getting
more common.
Somerset
It's-
Berkeley, they were state champs, actually. And it's becoming more and more common, and I think as long as it continues to go this way, it'll become more acceptable as people see it more. You know, we went down to Dennis Yarmouth for a game in the state tournament. They handled the situation very well, because they had dealt with this in the past. And hopefully, we're going to have, just had AD's meeting about it, to be honest with you. And hopefully next year, there'll be, you know, right before the games, everybody will understand how we should handle this. And honestly, it's more adults than the kids. It's more the
Yeah,
adults
yeah.
than the kids.
Yeah.
Usually is.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that,
Anything else?
do we have volleyball?
No, with volleyball was, Mr. Caturli resigned after the season. I've been trying to get something this week, and he was not able to attend.
So one thing really popped out, the All-Star, Margarita Pedrelli. She
Yeah.
was a foreign exchange student.
Yeah, she did a good job.
And she came here and
Yeah.
crushed it.
Well, she played before, so
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
you could tell that right away. And she's a very nice girl, she did well, and, so, hopefully, we get more foreign exchange students like that.
Ms. Rossi.
One thing that stood out for me, and I know that you brought out, is the GPA for all of the athletes.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. and-
It's all AB for every team.
But
had-
that's been here for years now. Every time I come to a meeting, I am shocked all the time that's incredible to me. I mean, you're talking 140 kids here. You're not talking 20 kids. That's 140-some kids with that GPA. And, you know, we're really excited about that. Hopefully that'll continue.
Does anyone have any questions on the other, financial end? Ms. Bakayaki?
Well, I don't have a question.
Yes.
But, I like to look at the numbers
Yeah,
and put them
yeah.
into my little spreadsheet.
Sure.
But all I want to say is that you had, so I did look at last fall versus this fall, and you had 21 more athletes,
Yeah.
and it cost you $10,000 less dollars. That's what I
Well-
saw anyway, in the
Well,
numbers. Well, you don't have to explain why, because, I mean, things change, and I'm not asking you to
Yeah.
explain that number, I'm just pointing it out
It
that,
happens.
you know,
We,
that's.
I'll speak to it for a minute. We lucked, I don't know if it's lucked out or didn't luck out. We had a lot of away football games, and most football games, there's a
Serious
tremendous
money,
loss
serious money.
because of all the expenses. It's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper to drive a bus to a game than
Yeah.
it is to host a football game.
Okay.
So it probably will switch again. It's
Yeah.
kind of an every other year thing, so,
We're gonna have at least 6 home games next year.
so
Oh, well, that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
it's
Yeah.
good.
It's good, and
Yeah.
it's
Good for the shack.
Yeah.
it's a
it
lot
is.
of money when
It
you
is.
take everything into consideration. It's
Yeah.
a lot.
I'm sorry to interject, but we just did our job for scheduling this fall, and I think we confirmed that
Yeah.
we opened with Carver, Coyle Cassidy, and then we have Holbrook. So those 3 games are really local teams, especially Carver, Coyle over in Taunton. So we hope to get a better draw, to help with those numbers also. You travel to Seekonk and Dayton Rehoboth,
Many
not as much, so
Our home
we
games-
hope that'll help.
Next year, we have Haven at home, Carver at home, Bourne at home.
Mm-hmm.
Those games draw, so, and hopefully we'll be okay.
And Thanksgiving at home.
Yeah, Bourne Thanksgiving, that's what I mean, Bourne Thanksgiving at home. So that helps, and it's just a lot of money to run a football game.
We also had the mosquitoes.
True.
Yeah, I know we had to go in the afternoon, but
Yeah.
Good point, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so that
I'm sure that's
affected
gonna be
your
around
receipts.
next year though, too,
Yeah.
so.
Ms. Rossi?
So one other thing, I know that the hockey team does certain theme nights. They've done the military
Yeah.
appreciation and the blackout cancer. I know that they use those as like, local charity fundraiser events. And I believe that the girls soccer team has done stuff in the past as well.
Yeah,
The ones that I know of that have done it repetitively. So is that something that you're looking to encourage more across the board with
Yeah.
themes for like the football team, for all the soccer teams, volleyball, things like that?
Most of our teams did. All the teams except probably football did what you just said, but,
We weren't.
and basketball does, basketball does, girls' basketball, boys' basketball draws really well all the time. So we don't try to do anything special unless we really have to, you know what I mean? They just draw well. But most of our other teams have done something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, there's just one thing that stuck out to me in the report here. The coaches, volleyball, $3,400. How many coaches are there?
3,400, let me see that.
Maybe 2 coaches.
There
for
should be 2
volleyball.
coaches, let me see that. Volleyball,
Oh, never mind. That was officials.
yeah.
Never mind.
'Cause
I
that's,
like your number, though.
yeah, I know,
Yeah,
that's one coach.
yeah. I was gonna say. All right, I was gonna ask how many there were. Yes, never mind.
1,000.
Never mind. Wrong line. So that's it. I was impressed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank Ed. He does a tremendous job. And I just want to remind everyone, he is part-time, and I tried to tell him to take a day off, but he hasn't taken a day off in probably 5 years. Even when we're out of season, he's in his office, the light's on. I'd like to thank him and Ms. Barboza as well, and all the fall coaches and athletes, but it's just been a great, it's been 6 years now, Ed? It just
It's
seems
my
like
7th year.
seventh year.
I didn't,
Flies by, and he does a great job. He and I were at a meeting today with the conference, and he does a great job representing Wareham High School in the athletic program, and we're very lucky to have him on part-time doing a full-time job.
I was just gonna say, on paper it's part-time, huh? Still.
Thank God he's a retired teacher.
yeah, but I don't, honestly, I like it. I like what I'm doing. I don't look at it as work. I really don't. I can only walk around Buntwood Park so many times.
Yeah.
So this is something I get to do. And the administration, Mr. Palladino, Dr. Saferhood here has been, they've been great to me. Everybody's been great to me. I have no issues with anybody, and that's why I continue to do it. Everybody's been, administration people have been great. So I enjoy it, and hopefully I'll continue to do this for several years.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last thing, we got new bleachers. They look beautiful.
They do.
And
They do look beautiful.
appreciate it. And
We'll need a new scoreboard.
we'll need a
next
new
year.
score, but here's the thing, we'll be
back at a later date for that.
we need 2 new scoreboards actually, and the main one is on the football, baseball type field which is not cheap. The basketball one is a little cheaper, but that's something I will be, I've already talked to you about, something we can maybe, I don't know, work together to try to get this, because we really desperately need it. Yes,
You're talking about the one on Spillane Field?
yes.
Is that something we could look into partnering with the Tigers fundraising for?
Well,
and
the
stuff?
Tigers and the Gateman, I was gonna talk to
That should
Dr.
be the easier of the two.
Dr.
The
Shu-
Than the
one
Gateman?
the one in the gym, I think, is gonna be a little more difficult,
Yeah.
because I don't think we have any partners in the gym
No.
yet.
No.
I'm
We'll
hoping to
work
have
on
a,
that.
I'd like to have a meeting within the next couple of weeks and see what we can, we need that. It's time. They're at a point where we can't do it anymore.
And you have to stop a game and.
It's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
it's embarrassing. The
It's
football,
happened during the football season, and now it happened during basketball.
well, we corrected it now in basketball. I should last.
Temporarily.
Yes, but we still need a new one. I mean, we're 30 years old, we're 30-some-odd years old, and it's, matter of fact, two of our school boys, they don't have the parts anymore. They don't even have the parts anymore.
I
So,
think we
They
need,
they don't owe us anything.
no.
I think we need a Jumbotron out there.
Hey,
See the
well,
replay.
for it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to Wareham High School Course of Studies 2020, 2021.
All right, I'll stay right here. Thank you. So we've got some folks coming up. Unfortunately, my timing wasn't great with DECA. We've got two department heads down at the DECA competition. They told me they were going to be watching on WCTV once it's up, so I know it's not live on the website, but so we have Andrea Cannon, who is our special ed assistant principal, Dr. Mike Janicki, who is our guidance director, Kim Kavicki, who is our assistant principal, and Mike Murray, humanities department head. So we're going to go through this and answer any questions you may have, and we hope that at the end you'll be able to take a vote and approve the changes. I will go through, I think you all appreciate the kind of the cheat sheet version versus the 72-page version.
It's actually in my notes to thank you for that. It's really good.
It's always been very popular with the school committee for as long as I've been principal, so it will just highlight the changes. And there's so many great things on here, so I'll try not to say how excited we are about everything, but having French as a potential IB course is huge for us because it maintains two traditional foreign language programs for us. I feel if we didn't do that at some point in time, we would be only offering Spanish in a traditional classroom for a foreign language. So having that added down the bottom is new and exciting. And then we have some changes that are going to be made to math that we'll get into in just a few minutes, and you can see them listed there. Down the bottom of the first page, Technology Design Lab, we are looking to remove this, and we'll talk about what we're looking to add in just a few minutes from that. So DECA Prep 1 is currently offered at the high school, and we're looking to enhance that class with a level 2 and level 3 course on the second page. The other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to go with it's kind of our phys ed model, grades 8 through 10 in phys ed. We're trying to do our electives in grades 8 through 10. What we found working with Mike and working with the other administrators, currently we have one period each day where all the 8th graders take their electives. And what it has done is it's really has bound up the schedule to the point where for periods 4 and 8, which are the elective periods, there are not a lot of options for our other students. So what we're going to try and do is open up electives to students in grades 8 through 10 to offer more opportunities. So on the bottom of page 2, entrepreneurship would now be offered to students in grades 8 through 10. So that would be the change there. We would add a new course, financial literacy for teens, and this would be for grades 8 through 10. Obviously, we've talked here about financial literacy. It's such an important piece, something I never had as a high school student, and I wish I did. Moving on down to personal finance. This would be a required course, and I'm again excited about this as well because I think it's time that this is a requirement. We do a lot in our math classes, but actually having a personal finance class offered and required for students in grades 11 and 12. This hypothetically would take the place of the technology design lab that I mentioned at the very beginning and really moving into the 21st century. What happened when we started with the technology, the students didn't have the skills needed to present, conduct presentations, slideshows, spreadsheets, etc. Now what we're finding is the kids are using these apps and these, they're using the devices at a very early age, and they're coming in with that knowledge, so it's not needed freshman year anymore. They already have that knowledge that they need. So that would be the personal finance. Culinary arts, we're just tweaking things a little bit in anticipation of being an MYP school, so you'll see some language. I'll mention MYP on a few of these courses. Core English 11. For years, the English department has done a great job of identifying students that need core English and making sure that they are assigned there based on MCAS scores. This allows students to have English every day versus every other day, and we pre-identify those students. We've had a lot of students, at times we haven't had to offer the core English 11 and 12, and what we've had is we've had a lot of kids transfer back from private schools, and as you know, they don't take the MCAS in private schools. So this gives us an opportunity to have those kids in an extra English class to prepare them for the MCAS test that they'll need to take to graduate. We really don't want to fool around with seniors when they have pretty much one shot, maybe two, to pass this and graduate on time. Introductory to creative writing, we're basically just tweaking or changing the whole description. So it goes from where it says the old description and underneath is the new description. Mr. Murray's favorite class to teach, and I hope you have a question on this because he was upset last year he didn't get a question on this one. Vietnam Conflict Legacy was the name of the course, and he is changing this in hopes that the title change will entice students to take the class. It is really an awesome class. I have observed him in this, it was years ago, teaching the class. He's very passionate about it, and it's really a great elective, and he's hoping to rekindle the excitement in that class, and we'll see if that is able to run as an elective. I mentioned previously about kind of changing the grade 8 electives to 8 through 10. Foundations in Fine Art is going to replace the 8th grade Fine Arts class, and again, we're opening that up to grades 8 through 10. Foundations in Digital Art, same thing, opening that up to grades 8 through 10. Computer animation, just a little tweak on the bottom to align with MYP. And then we have the French class that I talked about, the Language Act French for the IB would be a new course. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Mathematic Application and Interpretations, new title for IB Math Study SL2, and then the Mathematics Analysis and Approaches takes the place of the IB Math SL. So those are new courses and new course descriptions. And then, as I mentioned with Core English, we have Core English 8. We're going to look to do Core Math 8, which would again allow us to pre-identify students in math and double them up so they have math every single day. Moving on to science, physics, we unfortunately have not been able to run that class just because of staffing. It's not because of interest. Science is really in need of having at least another teacher to run these sections. So we try to make this realistic. We don't want to have things in there that there's no way we can offer, and quite frankly, we just can't offer the physics. So 8th grade STEM, you'll see that come back in a minute in that 8 through 10 model. Chemistry, just some changes in the description. The Intro to Computer Science going to 8 through 10. And this year we offered cybersecurity as a new elective in the science class. And it's a half-year course, and we're hoping to do that again at a level 2 course if we can find the sections in the department. So that's cybersecurity 2. One of our, I think one of our best electives, I'm a little biased, it's new, so I'm going to say it's one of our best, is the electric automotive system. And the kids are now, they actually got it up running. An electric car was actually, last week, was running in our school. And they're now taking it apart so the next semester group can put it all together themselves. It's really a cool class, and what has a tendency to happen is you come up with a description and then you run the class and then you're like, all right, we've got to tweak this description. So this has happened in the Automobile Systems Lab, the Introduction to Game Design, which is another new class for us, very exciting class. It's so exciting, the kids all want to come back and do it again, so we're creating a Game Design 2 class, which is a brand-new course, and just really 3 exciting labs. You know, I know we sit here and talk about vocational opportunities. Well, here are 3 right here, and these are all, like, you know, brand new. So, moving on to woodworking, again, just the MYP alignment changes in the last sentence, and then a new IB class, global politics, and then with the changes in the curriculum, a title change for our grade 8 history class would be U.S., Massachusetts government, and civic life. We do offer, as we've mentioned, the online courses, and Jess is here, actually our librarian, although she's here for NEAS, but she'll answer any questions online on our online courses. One thing that we're always learning, and one thing that we've learned is that there are certain courses that need to be for seniors only, based not just on prerequisites, but based on a few other factors. So it's we're just making some adjustments to make sure we set kids up to succeed in the correct classes. So you'll see on these nursing and pharmacy tech classes that they're for seniors only, and then just some language on 2 of the courses as well. So those are the proposed changes to our course of studies. This is, I just want to give my spiel that I give every year. This is a student-driven process. These are courses we could offer. These are not all the courses we will offer next year, because some of these we will not be able to offer based on student interest. Hopefully not on staffing, but more on student interest. And we have people here that can answer any question that you may have.
All right, who's first?
Question?
Ms. Bakayaki.
So I just have a few questions. The personal finance class, it's newly required, but it's not a new class. You've been offering that class, right?
Thank you for that. Yes, it has been an elective, a very popular elective, but it is, the requirement would be new. That would be the new piece.
Okay. And is SAT prep still required?
Yes.
For all students?
Correct.
Okay. Will they have any trouble fitting these requirements into a schedule?
No, because what happens is, so when they become let's just say they had to fit it in their senior year, assuming they've passed everything, they only need 3 years of science and 3 years of history to graduate. So there'll be 2 periods right there that would be open, and that's just assuming they waited to their senior year. A lot of times, most of the students will get this done during their junior year because their favorite class is offered senior year.
Right, okay. And SAT prep, have you ever had a student come to I don't know who would answer this question, and say, I'm just not going to take the SATs and I shouldn't have to take that class? What would your answer to that be?
I would think that would be something in Mike's wheelhouse.
Yeah, we've had students ask that very question. My encouragement is always to still take the class for a couple of different reasons. One, it's math support, English support, but also you don't necessarily know. I mean, plans might change in a different direction, or they take the SAT even after graduation. You know, it's if nothing else, it's a good academic support class. It's test prep. It's preparation for, for what's next.
Sometimes as part of the team process, we'll decide, because we do a transition plan and we start working on vocational training, and depending on what that student's individual plan is, we may exempt that, and then they would take different classes we have. We have a job coach, and we have different.
Okay,
things.
so there is an exception. Okay, so that's good. Some of the IB classes, they're not actually additional classes, you're just renaming classes.
Correct.
Is that true?
Correct. It will say formally.
Right, okay, all right. And so physics, by eliminating that, is that going to put a student at a disadvantage?
So the introductory to physics is the first year course that they take as freshmen. This traditional track. Sophomore year would be biology, junior year would be chemistry, and then this would have been a 4th year they could have taken physics. So it's really not going to derail I mean, don't get me, I could use another science teacher, but I mean,
Well, we know
the
that.
budget is what it is.
Yep.
I know it's not gonna happen, so we have to plan accordingly.
Well, part of my concern is that it's offered as CP, which I guess would every science class be offered as CP?
Every core science class, correct, or
Okay.
elective, yes.
Okay. I just wouldn't want to see that opportunity for a student who wanted to take a CP class now to have one less.
There are other sciences that they could take. Our most popular science elective is zoology. We also have earth science that could fill the gap there for the physics.
Okay.
It's just, it's hard, it's hard, there's only so many sections.
So it's something you could bring back if you were ever
We
had
could,
that
but
opportunity.
we haven't run it in a few years, and again, I want this to be realistic so that the students, when they look and they put it on their course selection, that, we could run it. You don't want it to be kind of like a tease.
All right, just one more question. So from year to year, the numbers of CP and honors and AP, those numbers must shift.
Correct.
So you're able to shift the sections. Well, this year we might have 2 CP and 2 honors. Next year, we'll have
Right.
3 CP. So you're able to do that to
So-
accommodate all the students.
Definitely, yeah. We get what's called a tally sheet, which, once we put all the information in for the students, we run a tally sheet, and then we sit down as an administrative group, and I'll say, I'll use Mike Murray since he's up there. I'll say, Mike, you have 120 kids that want English 9, CP. You've got 40 kids that want at the honors level. What are you thinking here? And then, he knows what he has for sections, and he knows in his mind what he's allocated out. And then we try and make sure we blend the numbers as best we can. The tough part with freshmen is kids are constantly moving. It's a moving target. I take snapshots just so people don't think I'm crazy, that look at how balanced this is. It's great. And then come September, our numbers are skewed because kids are constantly moving throughout the summer, especially freshman students who have all kinds of options. It's a little bit easier with the other classes because it's kind of a rigid number that we know this is what we have, this is what's gonna be there. Freshmen, it's a moving target.
Okay. Mr. Murray, thank you for keeping it interesting, those classes.
Ms. Rossi?
So on looking at the changes in the 8th grade curriculum and incorporating them into like a more kind of cohesive unit with, having it be like 8 through 10 or whatever, is that changing, like, because 8th grade is technically a different requirement than high school level, or is because the shift has been made where it's now in the high school, does that change how the state sees it in any way, shape, or form? It just shifts the way that the descriptions are? Is that more what it is?
You're on the right track, and I'm glad you brought this up. It's, so 8th grade, it's not a credited class. They don't get credit unless they're taking a freshman level course like the dual enrollment kids would get, or a kid taking a Spanish 1. So that's really the only difference, is that the 8th graders aren't necessarily taking classes for credit, and they don't have to attain a certain amount of credit. But as far as the course and the curriculum, it's exactly the same, except for they're gonna be listed as 8th graders.
So then for those electives, like say if they take it as an 8th grader, but they wanted credit for it as a high school, they would have to repeat the course? Or is there like they would merge into a secondary level of that
right,
course?
that's our goal, and it's funny, I feel like you're at our meeting, we were talking about, when these kids get older, we have to have the mindset of, there's gonna need to be some other options. What I would hope as an elective teacher is kind of what you're seeing with the game design, for instance. This year, we started out with a game design 1. Next year, we hope to have game design 2. So to your point, now we can add enhancements to these classes so you have different levels. And you can just get so much deeper in the instruction at that point in time because the kids are coming in with a baseline of knowledge, and you can build even further on that. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens, but we would never put the kid in the same class because it's basically going to be the same instruction, same curriculum, probably even the same teacher.
Right, and as a parent of the first group of 8th graders, it's been very cool to see the transition of them, picking their electives, and even as 8th graders without the credits, they felt like they were, getting that choice, and seeing how hard it was to balance the different courses and giving more effort where they liked a class better than others. But I think that that's a great thing to change the wording to make them feel more part of the high school, I think will help their mentality.
Sure.
Even just reading it, as opposed to saying, okay, 8th grade only, it makes them still sort of feel segregated instead of included. So I think that that's a great way to kind of incorporate it so that they're not like a whole like separate entity, but they're part of the whole school. And even with the sports reporting, how many 8th graders were involved in everything, it's really great to see how it's been accepted by the upperclassmen and by a lot of the other teachers. So that's great. Thank you.
Ms. Spear? Anything?
I just wanted, I have one question. So for the 8th grade social studies course, it's going from just like a broad social studies to, oh good, it's your turn.
He was,
I'll ask about
he
the
was
other
hoping someone would
I'll
ask
ask
him
about the
something.
other one too if you want, because that one's
Sure.
way more interesting.
All right.
But it's going to the United States, Massachusetts government and civic life is reasoning or?
Oh, it's this new state standards, new state social studies standards. They've essentially, they're trying to emphasize civics in 8th grade, and it's at the expense of early modern European history, essentially. But yeah, that's the direction. So Massachusetts, great that we live in Massachusetts because, this is where it all started, and so they get that, and they are also going to embark on a civics project. So we're kind of piloting that this year with the regular history courses, doing a civics project, getting ready for next year's larger project, which is meant to be a community-based project.
And then music for your Vietnam one?
Yes, we're just going to listen to tunes. No, it's it's
The Forrest Gump soundtrack the whole time.
no, it's when I taught the course previously, the kids who were in front of me seemed to be a little more interested in the American culture of the time and maybe less in the military history, so I was kind of shifting it towards that, and I just figured I should change the title to reflect that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I want to take that class.
All right. Would the student rep like to comment on the course of studies?
Yeah, I'm a little sad about the AP Physics. I was gonna take that next year, but your class sounds really cool. Like, I actually might take that. I actually might take that. Yeah. The cybersecurity class, I'm actually in the first one. It's actually pretty interesting. Mr. Parks is doing a pretty good job with that. I'll be interested to see who takes the second one. See if I can fit that into my schedule.
Okay. Now, I know this is your baby, this is your thing,
I've got a lot of babies.
Yeah. But I am curious now, Dr. Schwan, are you involved in this process too?
Somewhat, yes. Over the years, I've been involved, and I was just at the department meeting, discussion about the course of studies. And of course, we're involved with the middle years program for IB. And that will be an all or nothing proposition. So every course eventually, once we're authorized, will have that kind of language, which is really about good teaching and reaching every student, and it's student driven. So that's really exciting. So that's been incorporated into some of the courses at this point, but we'll have to be in all of them, just in the description. And the performance-based assessments are all connected to all of this too. So the civics project, for example, all of the work that everyone is doing is all represented in the course of studies. The vocational education is something that Dr. Shaverhood has been phenomenal at supporting for a very long time. We've been involved in discussions about this for a long time. I mean, the dream would be to have really smart kids who could also do something when they left. So they have all kinds of options available to them, right? So that's what we're building, little by little, with the little money we have, quietly moving about to get there, so.
Okay. All right.
Just a question. Is personal finance, is that going to be a requirement for the class of 2021? Like, when is that enforced?
We discussed that at the last meeting, and we felt we needed to kind of matriculate that in just because we wouldn't have enough sections to make it for the class of 2021.
This might be a question more so for Ms. Kavicki. What's going on with pre-calculus?
So with pre-calculus, it's more of just a name change, honestly. Pre-calculus is going to cover all, like, the extended part of Algebra 2, trigonometry, some statistics, and vectors and matrices. And so if you look in the Mathematics, Analysis, and Approaches class, which is the IB one-year course, it's covering all of that, and then it's actually getting further extended into calculus as well.
Does it really? Because I've been reading up on it, and everyone's saying it just sort of touches on calculus and isn't really
Well, it does only touch on calculus because it's only covering the pre-calculus pieces. So prior, the pre-calculus course didn't touch on any calculus whatsoever. It just touched on the skills. It was pre-calculus, all of the skills that you would need in order to be successful in the AP calculus course. So this one actually is going further than a traditional pre-calculus course would.
All right, just because I know there's some interest in the pre-calculus, and there has been for a while, but the students kind of felt it was being squeezed out by IB, but you're saying that this satisfies it.
As far as the curriculum, yeah, it more than satisfies it. It's covering that and then some, honestly. And it's holding students accountable in a way that the prior pre-calculus class didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about AP exams. Do we really need to require that?
Is that a later agenda?
Well, no, that's it's weird. That's like the AP fees. I mean, we can discuss it then if you'd prefer.
You're the chair.
Well, no, it sounds like we can discuss it at that point.
Whatever you want.
People just hang out. Yeah, I suppose. I guess, yeah, other than that, I think I'm good. And everyone else good with the course of studies? Okay. So do you need a motion to approve?
Please.
Do I have a motion to approve the course of studies?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 4-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you. So I guess
I appreciate it. It's great for these. I'm usually here anyway. It's great for these folks.
Yeah.
I do appreciate everyone getting us on for one night because there's a lot obviously that needs to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's like high school night. So
I know.
NEASC accreditation
I'm
update.
upset today in the meeting either. They're pretty excited about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, my principal colleagues. So again, we're excited to talk about the NEAS process. Jess is going to come on up. Jess is our librarian, and she's also one of our chairs for the accreditation visits. So I'm hoping to educate you all on NEASC a little bit. I know everyone kind of knows enough about it, but things have changed with NEASC, and I want to highlight some of the changes, and my colleagues up here are going to talk about some of the changes and some of the standards. So I'm just going to start off. One of the most frustrating things as principal is when I'll run into a store and I get asked probably a dozen times a year, what's going on with accreditation? And I just want to be clear, and I hope everyone in town is listening. We have never lost our accreditation. We have never come close to losing our accreditation. And as long as I'm here, we will never not have accreditation. We will be fully accredited. And hopefully 100 years after me.
So I think the confusion arises because we were on some kind of a warning or something, right?
There's different levels and different things that you have to do, and it's not unusual for follow-up reports to happen when you go through the accreditation process because nothing is ever perfect. And as you'll see, I feel have a wealth of knowledge at this table in regards to visits that we've gone on, trainings that we received through NEASC. It's really not unusual to have some follow-up. The issue was, I think, maybe more the timing last time. There was an override. There was NEASC coming in. I think it was bad timing. But we honestly, and I'll talk about this at the end just before we get to the questions, we are in a really good place. And you can thank, district administrators, our central administrators, the folks here and our staff and students for that. And I'll highlight that later on. But NEASC is our accrediting agency. And it's the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. It comprises over 2,000 schools. What they do is they assess schools based on the standards, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes, of accreditation, providing accommodations and recommendations to each school. They will never tell us what we need to do, but they will tell us what the issue is, and then it's our job as a district to figure it out and fix it. The feedback serves as a roadmap for individualized and ongoing school improvement, and it determines, obviously, ultimately the accreditation status, which is very important as we have students every year looking to go into colleges. So I'll come back at the end and talk more about this.
So the NEASC accreditation standards are the standards on which we're actually going to be judged by the NEASC Commission. So there used to be 7 standards. They've consolidated that, and now we have 5. As you can see, Standard 1, learning culture. So that's going to focus on the vision of your school, the core values, 21st century learning standards, those sorts of things. Student learning, Standard 2 is going to focus on your curriculum and your instruction. Curriculum is a huge focus of that, and that's one of the places that I think we are in a wonderful, wonderful position. Standard 3, professional practice, that's going to be all the professional development that we do, our in-service days, early releases, things like that. Standard 4, learning support. They're looking at all of our support staff, so that's like your counselors, special ed staff, the nurse, many school psychologists, behaviorists, all of those extra specialized positions that help us, they're going to focus in that standard. And then Standard 5, learning resources, is going to look at your budget, your community support. School committee is going to be, there's going to be a piece of that we'll talk about in a little bit as well. So as far as the timeline and what this is going to look like for us at Wareham High School, so we're currently in the self-reflection process. And I'd say we're pretty much in the thick of it right now. So we've given all of our surveys. So you may thank you, those of you who took them, the parent survey, the staff survey, and a student survey. And we have all of that data now compiled. We're using that data, and we have different committees established with all staff members within our high school. And they're all going through to reflect on the extent to which we're meeting the standards. So we're going to compile a report. And this report will be shared with the visiting team for the collaborative conference, which is going to take place this fall. So we don't have official dates yet. We've requested several choices, but we're waiting on confirmation from NEASC. From that conference, the visiting team is going to basically validate the parts of our self-reflection that they agree with, and then they're going to provide some of their own recommendations, and based on that, we're going to come up with a school growth plan that we work on for 2 years until the decennial accreditation visit in 2022. Then from there, it's just continuous growth, right? It's always that same cycle repeating itself.
All right. It's organized in such a way that we have a steering committee, and the steering committee is made up of Ms. Kavicki, Ms. Linehan, and myself. And the principal is not allowed to be on the steering committee, according to NEASC. And the reflection committee is our faculty members that are basically running those standards groups that are made up of faculty. The reason there are 6 is because the second standard has an awful lot of indicators. It's very complicated, so it just needs a little more coordination in writing. They'll do some writing, we'll do some writing, editing, stuff like that. And then, as Ms. Kavicki mentioned, we did the surveys. We had an incredible response on the surveys. Thank you to everybody out there in TV land for doing the surveys. Then, as we're in the self-reflection, and the vision of the graduate is essentially what is the conclusion of it for us in a way where we, after reflecting, we decide, what do we want students to look like when they walk out the door. And it's similar to our 21st century learning expectations that we wrote up the last time in the NEASC process, but it's a different process. And in fact, NEASC themselves are still kind of teasing it out, I believe, and so we're going to be, a couple of us are going to be trained on it by NEASC at some point in March. Next slide is, we've done some training prior to that, just for your information. These are, we went up to a training. I was able to make it to a training in Burlington without getting a speeding ticket. And we also went to collaborative conferences, which are, as Mr. Palladino likes to say, the greatest professional development I think that any teacher can do. You just really see how it looks in another school and how they do things. You come back with a million ideas.
The decennial visits, we've had several staff members attend these visits throughout Massachusetts, and it's really helpful because, as Mr. Murray said, you really get a perspective as to what NEASC is looking at when they come to your school later. So I found it to be really helpful. Mr. Palladino has been facilitating lots of visits, and so that will help us prepare for the decennial visit and also the collaborative conference. Also, we have central administrators who've gone on these visits. Dr. Schwam and Dr. Shaverhood have also gone, so it's great to have that perspective because the administration plays such a role here, and so does the school committee, so it's going to be really helpful.
And just to build on that last point that Ms. Linehan made, I've heard Mr. Palladino say many times, you know, we're pretty lucky in the fact that we've had our central admin trained in this NEASC process, because that's not something that every district has. And so having Dr. Shaverhood and Dr. Schwam have that firsthand experience as visiting team members is helpful so that they understand what we're going through.
And if I can, just to put it in perspective, what that visit looks like, because I know we don't have a lot of time to email during those times, because you are literally, you show up at the hotel Sunday at 7 a.m. and you start working from 7 a.m. and usually that afternoon you'll take a bus ride to the school to meet with the faculty, staff, parents, etc. And then you'll go back and continue writing until about midnight. You'll then get up the next morning like you would for any other school day, Monday morning, to show up at the school early in the morning. You do classroom visits, you meet with more staff, meet with parents, school community members, and then Monday night you go back around 4 o'clock, you start writing, you have dinner, then you write again till midnight on Monday night. Tuesday, back to the school, more visits, more observations, same thing as Monday night, midnight, you shut it down. You're back in school on Wednesday, and at that point in time you're done meeting with faculty and staff and you're just revising and writing your reports for each standard. Wednesday afternoon, you meet with the faculty and staff, and then you're done. It is quite intensive. Everything that you are responsible for back home has to be put aside and dealt with when you come back, and you're digging yourself out Thursday, Friday, and Saturday when you're back at work. So it's a huge process, but as Kim mentioned, I think it's the best PD. And for you folks on the budget side of things, there is no cost whatsoever to the district. So it's an awesome PD experience. What I like best about it is when I come back, I feel so much better about our school because I look at what they have, and you know, while some schools may have more money, money isn't everything, and I look at what we have and I say, wow, you know what, we still are blessed, and I feel much better coming back. So I'm sorry, Jess.
Oh no, that's okay. That was important to say. That was great, and it's so true. It seems like a whirlwind, but at the same time, you're really getting so much information about the school while you're there. So they'll be doing that with us. So over the next few months, we're going to be working together to reflect on how we're doing in accordance with the NEASC standards. We're going to be collecting evidence. We're going to be identifying strengths, what we're good at, and also areas that need improvement that we could do better at. And eventually we'll be also working together to talk about the vision of to develop a vision of the graduate, which is a lot like a vision statement, but it's different. And Ms. Kavicki's been doing a lot of background work on that, and I'm interested to see at some point where that all ends up.
So to continue, just to map out the timeline of the year, this all sort of really began on that early release in December, and as you can see, pretty much from there, other than looks like one Monday, we are focusing on NEASC in all of our Monday meetings after school. So it's taking a huge amount of our time, but it's also a really important process for the staff to go through too. And by the end of March, we should have our self-reflection completed and ready to share with the staff.
So the biggest thing, you know, when you sit there, how can you folks help us? The biggest thing is we will need folks next fall and then in 2 years after that to meet with the visiting team. It's not too bad. It's usually about an hour and 15 minutes, and they'll ask all kinds of questions. We don't need every school committee member, but we'll need at least 2 members there to represent the school committee. And as soon as we get that date, I can guarantee you Dr. Shaverhood will share that with everyone. We did put in 3 different times that we were looking at in the fall that worked with our draft schedule for next year. So we're hoping that they'll pick one of those days. I do just want to mention the first accreditation in Wareham High School took place in 1960. It was a decennial visit every year through 2000, In 2010, they came to us and said, would you mind postponing for 1 year? We have too many schools to visit. And so our decennial visit then was in 2011. They did the same thing again this year and asked us to move from 2021 to 2022 because it's just a logjam. They're trying to spread it out. And it is a decennial visit. As has been mentioned in this presentation, we are in such a better place than we were in 2011. And I mean, I just want to set the stage for 2011. They came in, we had 52 5-gallon buckets spread throughout the building. We had teachers, Mr. Murray included, who were slipping as they were walking down the hallway. You know, these are things that we dealt with. So just from the roof standpoint, we're in, I mean, that was cited on 3 different standards. We had, they cited the roof issue. Curriculum, there wasn't a common district template. We'll start there. We now have that. We didn't have curriculum in all areas. We have that, or will have that very shortly in all areas. Technology, the history of our first laptop was purchased because of our NIAS visit. Our laptop cart was purchased because they needed technology for the visit. We're one-on-one now, you know, and not just in the high school. Wireless, we had wireless in part of the building shortly after NIAS. We're more than 100% wireless in the building. The technology in the classroom is far superior to any technology I have seen in my visits. We have that going on. Our opportunities for our students, not just from the vocational electives that we highlighted a few of today, the AP, the IB, the dual enrollment. While AP was up and running, we didn't have dual enrollment for 8th graders. We didn't have it for 11th and 12th graders like we do now. And IB wasn't even in our mind at the point in time. So, I mean, just that change. Instruction, you know, moving away from the traditional teacher-driven and moving to student-driven. I mean, those are just some things that came to mind when I was preparing for this. And I really want to thank Dr. Shaverwood and Dr. Schwam, because without their support, I mean, we had the roof going, but, you know, they came in the middle of the roof project. But beyond that, all those other pieces to the high school NIAS process, they're a huge part of. And as Kim mentioned, to have 2 central administrators understand the NIAS process and have gone through it and have shed some blood, sweat, and tears through that process, it is quite a process, but it's nice knowing when I talk about the NIAS process, they know what we're talking about. That's pretty unique, and there's not a lot of districts that have that knowledge. So those are some of the changes. It's still going to be, there's still going to be some pain. We're still going to be involved. I'm very concerned with Standard 5, which has to do with funding. I'm very concerned with that and how that's going to come back. But beyond that, we're in a really good place. And at this point, we'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Yeah, I'm just going to go first, just because I've been biting my tongue, because I was there, you know, at that report, and yeah, it was devastating in a lot of ways, and that was I remember you were beaming over here when you said it feels so much better about, you know, you feel so much better about our school when you see these other schools. I remember back then you were like embarrassed, like you didn't even want to go anymore to these other school visits. You remember you saying that because you're like so envious of what these other schools had, but now it's the other way around, you know.
That's a good memory.
Yeah, I know.
You're exactly right. Those were my exact words too.
Yeah, it's
I said something about the zip code should determine the type of experience you have.
It's a gift. I mean, it's a curse too. So anyway, and I remember that. So and so you go into a lot of that report focused on the building. Like I said, all the drippings and you know, the roof was Swiss cheese, and you know, you don't think of that really when you think of a high school accreditation. You think about like the learning. All right, I want to think about the learning, not the building, but that was a big chunk of it. And as bad as that report was, I think it being slapped in the face with it as a town, I think helped, you know, kind of prod the town to be like, no, we got to fix this roof. We got to do this. We got to do that, and we got our act together. You know, with Dr. Schwam et al. You know, and sorry, Dr. Shaverwood, Dr. Schwam et al. And that was that I was there, and I remember, and it is a world different now. I'll probably have more, but just I'll open it
And
up
if
to
I could
whoever.
just- The issue was safety. I mean, it was highlighted, you know, the standard 5 is a more physical plant, but standard 3 and 4, it talked about safety, and it was a legitimate safety issue. If you don't have a safe building, you're not gonna have the learning that you want to have
Right.
going on in there. So that's why it was highlighted. And-
Right, it's
but-
just so frustrating as a parent, a taxpayer, a school committee member, to be talking about a building when it's just, not just that. I mean, so I remember the damn printer copier. That we didn't have books. We had to copy everything. I mean, it was like a third world country, you know. so and yeah, and then there's the whole copyright issue behind that and what have you. But now we've got all sorts of ebooks, and like you said, the 1-to-1, not just at the high school, but all the way down to, I think, second grade. And
We've got some work to do in the textbook. You notice that wasn't highlighted in the end. There's still a lot of work to do
yeah,
there.
yeah, okay, yeah. Anyone? Ms. Bakayaki?
Well, I don't have a question, but I was on one of those NEAS committees back in 2011, and I do have memories of that time also. And all I would say is that I totally agree with you that you're in a much better place right now in a lot of areas, just, yeah.
Right. And again, you know, thanks to everyone that's been, it's not just one person, it's central admin, it's the school administration, staff, students, we're very lucky.
And also, so I printed out the first couple of pages of the actual course of studies, and it goes back to the NEASC because, you know, you have that statement in there, which is really important. I was really glad to see that you have that in there to repeat. And I know we had a conversation at the school council meeting this week about putting the message out there, and we didn't have a website back then, or maybe we couldn't use it as well as we can this time around. But we have a website where we can keep the public updated on what's happening as the process goes along. And we didn't have that opportunity. And like you said, the message got, you know, distorted, and so we can do a better job this time of putting out the correct information.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thank you.
Ms. Rossi?
So on the end of what you are needing from the school committee, aside from, you know, I think it looks like you need representation at this one-on-one, what else can we do to help support this going forward so that, you know, everything runs smoothly for you?
I think, you know, I'd like to say, you know, the funding is gonna be the issue when this report is said and done. But, I mean, you know, as someone once told me, these are hands, not wands. That's gonna be the biggest issue, and I think if you can just, not just for the high school, for all schools, and I know you will, continue to fight for appropriate funding, because, you know, while we do go in other schools and they have endless amounts of money to spend on things, you know, there are still behind the scenes issues with, you know, things like HVAC that, you know, we do need to address, and again, not unique to the high school. I know the middle school has the same issue, and, you know, there's a lot of things like that we just need to understand. These buildings are aging, and there's a certain amount of money that needs to be allocated for preventive maintenance and maintenance in general. And I know it's hard when the budget's tight, but I think just continuing to be creative and find ways to support the budget, that's gonna be huge. And again, I know you will, I don't have to say that, but that's really it, because we're at a point now where it's like, you know, we're studying the building, we're doing our self-study, and we're just trying to document what we have. And, you know, we do have a lot of good things, and the report will be very positive, but there's still that standard 5 that we're gonna have to address. And I mean, buildings, when they age, they cost more money to maintain. And, you know, this building is what, 500 times the size of a house. And you know what you do for preventive maintenance on your house, so multiply that times 500, and that's really what we need to keep that building going.
I think that's a really good way of letting the public look at it, because a lot of people, I think, just view it as a municipal building. They don't see it as, you know, I know that I wouldn't have thought of it that way. So thank you for putting it in that kind of perspective, that hopefully people watching this or reading about it in the paper will see that it is, you know, it does cost us less to take care of when the problem arises than letting it go, letting it get worse, and then having a much bigger problem on our hands. So I definitely think that the way that you just worded that is going to hopefully help a lot of people see how it's very similar to maintaining their own home, but on such a larger scale, and that these things do cost money, and we're not just, you know, making up figures to just make up figures. It's all, you guys every bid that goes out gets, you know, the lowest possible denominator to try to make sure that we can cover all the bases. So thank you for putting it that way. That was helpful.
Ms. Spear, anything? No? That's it? Okay. Yeah, still in the middle of the process, so, yeah, I'll try to make the time for that for sure, you know, yeah.
As soon as we get the date, we'll send it to Dr. Shaverhood. I'll ask her to forward it to you. We won't know the time. Well, I'll be able to give you a kind of a rough estimate based on their template, but it could fluctuate. But I'll be able to give you at least the date and the potential time.
And it sounds like we could all go if we wanted to, right?
Is there open meeting?
Okay.
I think it
All
has
right.
to be 2, if I remember
All right.
correctly.
Okay.
And yeah, and there'll be other opportunities too, because they're coming back 2 years later. Hopefully you'll all be on the committee then as well. So they'll be coming back. And it's usually some of the same people that will be here for the collaborative conference will be back for the decennial. The decennial will be a little bit bigger, but.
Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, on to APIB testing fees policy. So that's why I was, Ms. Ruiz, just remind me, so we voted on the policy last time, and it is as it is right now, but Mr. Palladino wasn't at the last meeting. I think we were at NEASC at the time.
I thought maybe I left early.
No. And so, I mean, I wanted to have the discussion. It didn't make sense at the time to have the discussion without Mr. Palladino, but the policy is for fees, which is not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, do we need to force kids to take the exam?
I will tell you that I have seen both sides of it, okay? And I have some AP teachers here today as well that I'd love to hear from to my right. This goes back 2 principals ago. We had kids that were loading up on AP courses to pad their transcript, but weren't taking the class very seriously, because remember, the college transcript for a senior goes out in the fall. So what's on there, the colleges are basing the decisions on what's on there. So what we have found, and 9 out of 10 schools in the conference do the same thing. They require any student who's taking the course to take the end of course exam.
Who's requiring that?
9 out of 10 schools in the South Coast Conference have the same policy.
Is that new? Because I remember in the past your thing with our relatively lower exam scores was the fact that the other schools in our conference didn't require that, so just the strongest kids would take the exam.
Just for clarification, other schools had criteria, really strict criteria about the students that were allowed to participate. We don't do that in Wareham. Any student who wants to take an AP class can participate in an AP class. That's the issue. It's that the other schools are very choosy about who they allow in there, and so that's why there was a discrepancy in scores.
Okay.
And I think Mike, to your point, there were at that time more than one that didn't require it. It used to be MIMSI, now it's MIE, which is the AP grant, requires that every school administers an end-of-course exam if they're in that grant. So you are exactly right. I believe at the time it was almost 50. I know, you scared me tonight. It was close to 50-50. But I believe the context that I was taking in regards to that is there are a lot of schools in the state that are selective with which kids take the exams, and that skews the state average. So 9 out of 10 in the conference as of this year require it, and again, it's a lot of the reason why they have come on board is because of this grant that we have all received to help support the AP. But I truly believe it's important to do that because we want to be as fair and equitable as possible, and if kids are getting an advantage on their transcript and not fulfilling the obligations that they sign off for, I don't think that's fair. So it's been good. It's kept the students focused. It's created a great atmosphere, as you would expect in an AP course. And again, we've been doing it for years. It doesn't mean it's necessarily right, but in this case, I believe it's right. But I do have 2 AP teachers here to my right, which I don't always have at meetings, that I would love to hear from.
So to build off of the point he made about students' level of focus, of course, this isn't true in 100% of cases, but I can tell you that the added requirement of the AP exam or an IB exam at the end it's an extra level of accountability for a student, and it holds them accountable to learning the material on a deeper level. Without a doubt, I can tell you that that's the case.
I believe that. I mean, I do. But I'm just wondering about, we talk about every student every day, and it's great that everybody could do it, but maybe all these kids would want to learn that level of material, but not be pressured into taking the test. So, that.
The one school that, just for clarification, the one school that doesn't do it, doesn't like the policy, but just so you understand, they give the kids honors level credit if they don't take the exam, so it goes from AP to honors level.
Interesting. Wow.
So just for clarification on that, and they want to do what the other schools in the conference are doing. They want to do that.
So why don't they, if they want to do it? What's stopping them?
So since I haven't identified the school, I will tell you it's a new principal. I'm probably going to identify it by the end, and a fairly new superintendent. So they're just trying to kind of figure out their way.
Okay.
But he feels that in the future that they will align with the other schools in the conference.
Right. So another thing, and I loved everything you said. I mean, you do a great job of advocating for that and stuff. But so we're looking currently next year, maybe, possibly, having to cut 15 positions, right? And I look at your AP, I look at your course numbers, and I'm looking at, AP Calc, 6 kids, AP Chemistry, 4 kids, AP Gov, 4 kids. We're paying someone with a master's degree to sit in front of 4 kids, and I'm going to cut 15 positions next year. So I'd like to get your numbers up. I'm trying to help you.
Oh, I'm with you. I don't like coming here and getting beat up when we go over the numbers. But a couple things I just want to reiterate once again. About 8 years ago, we came up with a new schedule and got it approved through the union and through the contract. And the idea was, if we asked the teachers to teach one more class, we would be able to offer some of these courses that we otherwise wouldn't offer. So they all stepped up and took on another class so we could do things like this and offer electives we otherwise wouldn't be able to offer. Well, Rochester has the same schedule as us, and their teachers teach one less. And every time I see the principal, he said, "Oh, I wish I had your contract because I could offer so many other electives and I wouldn't have this mass group of kids in what we would call a study hall back in the day." So I'd love to see our numbers go through, but I will tell you, if we do it on one end, we should be doing it for the kids that want to challenge themselves. We do it, we have special ed classes that are smaller in size than that.
But, I mean, if Mary was here, she'd probably agree. I mean, that's where it's appropriate. These kids are high achievers. They're going to be in colleges with 40, 50-plus lecture halls. I mean, they can handle that.
Oh, I would love to have 20 in there so I didn't have to have this conversation. But the reality is, we want to keep these kids. And if we want to keep them, we need to offer these kind of courses. I would love to, we have other classes that you haven't mentioned that are AP. Mike has one that he has over 20 kids in the class.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
There's some offset there, but, and the history class is taught by a JROTC instructor who we pay half his salary. So, I mean, there is, as you dig a little deeper, I think you can rationalize some of these, but don't get me wrong, I'd like to be in double digits all the way across the board, and hopefully someday we will be.
Miss Rossi.
So I know that the 8th grade dual enrollment it's like gotten bigger and now, so do you anticipate, obviously now that there's so many more with the 8th grade being there and the dual enrollment there I think this was the largest group, right? I think the current freshmen were so far the largest group of the 8th grade dual enrollment. So that freshman class is now going to be next, when do they start taking those AP classes?
Next year they can start.
So as sophomores, that's a larger class of dual enrollment that'll likely be taking more AP classes. So I think having the 8th grade dual enrollment, do you see that those numbers are steadily increasing? Do you feel like they're staying fairly steady and that's helping to feed those AP, IB, those lower numbered classes as the dual enrollment on the younger side moves up, that they will move into those classes and fill that that 4, that 7 into double digits or into a higher number?
Yeah, yes, theoretically, and this was a large class, but not only was it a large dual enrollment class, but it was a large class to stay in the school. So it's kind of that double whammy. We've got a large group of students that were in the dual enrollment as 8th graders, and also a large number of students that stayed. So yes, it could, but it's student-driven. So like, I would love to say, okay, all the dual enrollment kids that are now in 10th grade, you're gonna take AP this, and in 11th grade, you're gonna go into IB, and in 12th grade, you're gonna do dual enrollment. But it has to be student-driven. It has to be, they have to have ownership in it. So a lot of these classes with low numbers, like the chemistry, we don't offer every year. But we wanna offer it every other, so every student has a chance to do that.
So if it's being student driven and in their, like, I know that most of the students have the same advisory teacher or advisor basically for the 5 years that they're at the school. Is that something that the advisory teachers could look into, as opposed to not necessarily everything falling on guidance as all right, what do you want to do with your life? What classes do you want to pick as your course selection? Is that something that could be incorporated into the advisory to help navigate those dual enrollment kids towards some of those classes if they were excelling in, say, certain dual enrollment classes or expressing interest in them, to help those numbers, or students survey those kids in the dual enrollment to say, you know, out of AP, IB, dual enrollment, where do you lean, you know, where do you see yourself in the upper part of your high school education, and what is making you, you know, choose those courses. Right. Like, I know my son wants to do video game design because that's what he wants to do for a career. Sure. He's been looking at colleges since he was in 7th grade. But, you know, so now the fact that you guys are going to be offering that as a class is exciting. So having something like, if those kids, you know, generally the dual enrollment kids, they have a very good grasp of what they want to do because they're already pushing themselves and excelling, or, you know, saying, I want to do something in finance, I want to do something with those maths, or if they, you know, want to take those calculuses or APs, is there something, you know, that you guys could do to focus on, you know, not necessarily solely those kids, because obviously you want to pull from the entire pool of kids going forward, but I mean, the likelihood is most of them will have been dual enrollment kids, most likely, or honor students that are going to be trying to take those AP classes.
And I don't want people to think like the kids that aren't in dual enrollment are pigeonholed not to be able to do that. We probably have just as many kids that aren't in dual enrollment or weren't in dual enrollment that are in AP and IB and dual than the students that were. So you don't necessarily have to be in dual enrollment to get into those programs. To your point, in a perfect scenario, you hit it out of the park. Having the advisory teachers give that presentation would be outstanding, but the issue is my advisory teachers don't all have the depth of knowledge that my guidance department has. So, like, you know, I'm sure, you know, a math teacher could do a great job advocating for the math classes, but might not hit it out of the park in humanities. So it's one of those things where what we do is Mike and his staff do presentations in classrooms, in advisories, in the auditorium, to make sure that they get the full spectrum of everything you explained was perfect. And that's kind of what he does in a nutshell, or staff does in a nutshell. We also, ironically, at 6 p.m. before the next school committee meeting, have an AP, IB, and dual enrollment night that is open to all parents, no matter what grade, what school. And it's 20-minute segments, and we will be here for 7 p.m. to start school committee if needed. 6 p.m. in the auditorium. And every student that is eligible grade-wise was given information. Obviously, we also have, through the PSAT, we get a list of students that are suitable based on their scores to take those type of courses. But we have opened it up, Kim, to all soon-to-be juniors.
All 10th and 11th graders actually are getting the letter, and then there's our AP potential letters also going out, that went out, I think, 2 days ago.
And that's for the
January
current,
20.
like, freshman and sophomore classes moving up to be sophomore and junior. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
It's a great opportunity. We'd love to see, you know, I hope someday I can come up here and say I need like more teachers, because we have so many kids taking AP, IB, and dual enrollment that we need more teachers. We're not there yet, obviously, but I don't think we should be giving up either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have anything? I thought I saw a hand. No, okay. Ms. Bakayaki.
It just goes back to what my question I asked before about CP classes and honors classes, and having the ability to make adjustments where you need to make adjustments. And so if we're able to offer everyone what they want, then, you know, a small AP class, well, sure, we wish there were more kids in it, but, you know, it's for the whole range. So, you know, like you said, we'll continue to try to get those numbers up, but, you know, if we're able to offer them for the kids that are there, then we should be able to do that.
Thank you.
And as far as the testing, I mean, sure, I've had my own kids who have taken the class and wish they didn't have to take a test, but, you know, I defer to you, and if that's the best way, then that's what we should be doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, I was gonna see if there was interest in that. I guess the jury's a little out on that. I guess if anyone wanted to entertain anything about changing that, I would entertain it, but I'm the one kind of, you know, yeah, so, that's that. But while I got you up here, if you want to talk about when the kids came back and discussed their college experience.
Well, thanks for opening that up, because it's always one of my favorite days. And I was there for probably about 80% of the conversation, and WCTV was taping it, so I would assume it's going to be on their channel as well. It probably already is. But it's I believe we had 15 recent, and Mike should actually talk about it. He helped Allison Medeiros organize it, but under Mike's direction. It's always a great event, and I have a favorite question. I'm a little biased, and Mike knows the question. I'm sure Kim does too. The kids come down and they run through, and they have a chance to introduce themselves, their school, their major, you know, why they chose the school, what they like about school, do they live on campus, do they not live on campus, do they commute, all those kind of basic questions that you would expect. But my favorite question is, what course at Wareham High School helped prepare you most for success in college? And I think it's a great question, especially, might be a little too late for seniors to hear it, but for me, it's validation for what we're trying to do. And it's all over the place, but there's some commonalities there in the answers every year, and it's always Mr. Wilson in English, it's always DECA, and then there's a few other courses, the AP, IB, dual enrollment that get thrown in as well. So it's really gratifying to sit in there and say, okay, that we are doing the right thing for these kids, and they're all meeting success, obviously, coming back, talking about their experiences. And I think it's a good table setter for the seniors to try and avoid some of these maybe potholes that the kids had to jump through and learn firsthand. So it's a great experience, and it's great to hear that they're doing well, and they attribute a lot of their success to their 4 or 5, soon to be 5 years in Wareham High School.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm gonna check it out on WCTV. Now, is it the sort of thing that parents would go to, or?
We try. We don't try. We don't allow parents because we want it to be student driven, and we want students to feel comfortable speaking their mind. Quite frankly, and there's some I think every year the conversation goes back to the dining hall at some point in time. Not that that's inappropriate for parents to hear, but I think students are a little more comfortable when it's just peers.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a big "I told you so" from my wife when I get home, because I wanted to go, and she said, you don't go. They want to talk about stuff, and all right, fine, So
I'm fun to embarrass Josh,
but he didn't even go anyway. No, so anyway.
Well, then he should watch it on tape.
He should, yeah. So, all right. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you
I didn't
all.
mean to beat you up. I gotta do it. Sorry.
Cliff Sylvia before you.
Yeah.
You're carrying the tradition.
And he had a full-time cafeteria voice, like you.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, moving on. Report of the superintendent.
Okay, so I would like to have bill approval and payroll for payroll warrants. You have them listed. Also, payroll week ending January 4th in the amount of $896,893.68. I would ask you to please vote approval.
Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 4-0-0.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You were given the grant reports, the federal grants, state grants. you have questions, I would be happy to answer the questions.
Anyone have any questions? Just generically, thank you for the grant report. Thank you for the descriptions. That's really helpful. But I mean, the descriptions are nice, but I just want to ask, for example, the first one. It was grant award was $106,000 to $106,273,000. We've got $13,000 remaining. Like, so what did that grant allow us to do that we couldn't have done without it?
Oh, quite a bit.
Yeah, I would think so, just by
yeah.
the description.
It has allowed us to provide student program. It helps pay for educators and professional development.
Okay, I thought maybe there was something more specific or something, but just like paying for teachers essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are there any grants here that kind of stick out to you that be like, wow, we'd be really lost without it? And I don't mean like Title I or anything, but it's like some grants that you're really happy that you have that if you didn't have, we'd really be in, worse shape.
Well, certainly circuit breaker.
Well, sure, yeah.
The 21st century, I think if you go to the back page, you will see that Beyond School Time has received some amazing grants. And this has allowed us to provide opportunities for students after school, before school, in the summertime, that we absolutely would not be able to do without this grant.
So a perfect example of what I was kind of looking for, yeah.
They just received a grant that will look at mental health and counseling services for the high school, middle school, and I believe also our elementaries. And we're looking at how are we going to provide the support for our students, probably after, and it has to be after school or before school, so we'll probably focus on after school. The other piece is that we're able to do, because of the other grants we have, is to piggyback as far as with bus home. So we'll be able to host students and do some group guidance activities, look at social emotional well-being of our students, and make sure that they get home. As well, it has a family component in that we will be looking at how do we network with families.
Okay. Now, do you have any concerns, that of any that are running pretty low at this time, or?
None of our grants, no.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, anyone?
No, I had a similar question to what you asked about, an example of what we would pay for out of a grant.
Okay, yep.
So that takes care of that one. Every year, the committee needs to approve student activity. So we have listed for you the current balances. You will see that, let's see, a couple of we had approached a limit on the DECA school, but that's being spent down, and so when you look at the combination between the checking and savings, that's their current balance.
Okay, any questions? Ms. Bakayaki?
So by voting, we're just really voting, again, what the maximum balances are at any time in the checking account.
Yes.
And you're looking for a vote?
I am looking
Yeah.
for a vote. It needs to be voted every year,
Okay.
approval.
Yeah. Ms. Rossi?
So are these set, like we said, I know we vote it every year, but is this like there was increases between, say for example, the high school's balance and, actually the middle school's balance almost double. So where do those monies are coming in from what? Just to remind myself.
Sure. Well, those monies could come in from fundraisers. It could come in from parents, guardians, because that, if I go to the outdoor, 7th grade outdoor trip, what's that called?
Nature's Classroom.
Nature's Classroom. Then we would have to write the check
Okay, so it's their monies that goes into a central thing, then the school writes the check out of that account? Okay.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you have that for the screen? This particular one?
And student activities, it's very,
There you go, okay.
it's very, you have to spend it on something that is student-related. I cannot say, if I was a principal, I could not say, oh, I really would like to get something new for the office and write a check out of that. Well, I could, but I would have to either be paying the money back or we'd be going to prison because you just can't do it. It's student-driven and student-related.
Anything else? All right, so I just had some questions. You sort of indicated some of these accounts are like way above what they were voted on, right?
Well,
You've got $68,000 in Wareham High School,
Checking, yeah.
but the voted balances was 50,000.
but this is for checking.
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about savings.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's just a good problem to have, I mean, but okay. So you're comfortable with these current numbers?
Right now. And we're going to be tracking this through the year, because as you move into going into the new elementary school, the decision's going to have to be talked about. What are you going to do with the elementary accounts? Are you going to keep them split? Are you going to keep them together? And that's going to have to be, thought's going to have to be given there.
So technically speaking, where is the money? Like does the town accountant get involved when we cut checks, or is it internal? Like, do we have our own checking account that we?
There are checking accounts that need signatures, but everything is run through the treasurer. And
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Foster gets copies of the bank statements that then come to us that we balance, and the person that, the treasurer, the quote, treasurer in the school needs to provide on a monthly basis the statements that match everything. So there are checks and balances throughout.
And is it in good shape?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, so you're looking for a vote for basically the bottom left corner where it says voted balances. You'd like us to approve that?
Yes, please.
So do we have a motion to approve John W. Deacus High School at $5,000, Minot Forest School at $5,000, Wareham Middle School at $30,000, Wareham High School at $50,000, and the Cooperative Pass School at $10,000?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and any further discussion? And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 4-0-0.
Okay, the next would be the transfer of funds. This was sent to you. The first page that is highlighted with blue are the transfers that I can make because they're in the major accounts and they're under $5,000. So I will be having these made. The way that happens, they go to the town accountant, and then she is the one that needs to make the adjustments in our books. The next page, the yellow, those are yours to vote. And so if you have any questions on any of the accounts, I'd be happy to answer them.
Ms. Rossi?
My first question is that when it says committee request, that's the budget subcommittee on this, or what committee that is requesting this move? Just
the yellow?
Yeah.
The school
That's what
committee.
just to clarify, that's all I
I'm
was looking at.
asking-
Okay.
Yes, I'm asking the school committee to move that amount of money to the above line.
The way I read it was we had already requested it, so that's why I was clarifying, so I wasn't sure if it came from a different committee, so thank you.
Anything else?
No, as of right now, no.
So I, I happened to pull the superintendent aside at our building committee meeting, and Ms. Bakayaki happened to be there, and I had addressed my questions at that time. I did have a whole bunch of questions, and they were clarified. It was just a format I was never really used to, but when I saw how they were paired, it made more sense. But in the future, I do want to get back to the way we used to do it. I think I sent you a past one that Mike McMillan used to do. If we could do it in that format, so you can see, just like it just seemed like a better format for me, and I don't know if you agree, Ms. Bakayaki.
Yeah, it was a good format. I mean,
Yeah.
but this one, like you said, once we were,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that you took the time to explain
Oh,
it
yeah,
to us.
yeah. And this was, a lot of preparation, I understand. And so when we vote on these, the changes will be made by the town accountant at a later time, I take it, right?
Yes, that's true.
And so once those changes are made, can you let me know? And I'd like to see the updated current budget on the.
Well, what will happen will be the Vadar budget, the monthly reports that
Yeah.
you get, that will be reflected on there, so everybody will get it.
Okay, good. Thank
So
you.
that those will be updated.
Yeah, okay, good.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right, so with that, so we need basically a vote to vote the yellow line items. Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All right, any further?
Motion to accept the transfer of funds highlighted in yellow by the superintendent for, transfer by the town accountant. Does that make sense? Is that good? I don't know.
Does that work? Okay. So we have a motion, a second, right? Did
Did
you
I
second?
second?
Well, she redid it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so motion, and any further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 4-0-0. Thank you.
The following pages, these are journal entries that will be made by the town accountant, and that's just for your information. And there's no vote needed.
Those are the items in like gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so
Can
report
I
of,
just, Mike, can I
sure.
just say that I appreciate that after these are done, the numbers that we have will be in much better shape, and so, yes.
Easier
look
to
forward
read.
that. Yes, thank you.
okay, report of the school committee. Anything?
So at the building committee meeting, we had a building committee meeting this week. I did ask the project manager to send me some highlights that I could share. Not that I'm not at the meeting and I couldn't come up with them myself, but I had asked him to do that, and I didn't hear from him. But what I would say is that the Wareham Week reporter, Chloe, was at the meeting, and I don't know if you've seen the article, but she wrote a really great article with lots of really great information. So I will just defer to her article and tell everyone to read that. And there's a lot of exciting things. It is under budget and on time, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
And if anybody else has anything to add.
Well, and I agree. I was there too, and she did a really good job. And I think in part because Mr. Sweat, as chair, opened it up to public comment at the end, and had her ask anything she wanted, and she did, and then even followed up with later on.
Well, yeah, I mean, just from reading the article, she spent much more time than
Yeah.
just what we saw her, yeah.
But she was kind of put on the spot. It was interesting. It was, but she was like flattered, like, okay, you know.
No, but she did a really good job, and that article has a
Yeah.
lot of great information.
Did you have something, Ms. Rossi?
Just to remind everyone that town meeting obviously is coming up in the spring, and that there are several positions in town, I believe, that are up for either re-election or election, and that I believe papers should be pulled by the end of this month in order to run. So anyone interested in kind of their civic duty, as I did the last time, to remind them of the deadline if they were interested in, I believe we have a couple, or one, do we have any? I thought the paper said we had seats, but I don't Yours?
I believe it's Miss Bakayaki
Oh,
and
both
Miss
of you?
Spear.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's two every year except for one. Miss Morgan is by herself. So on the years where there's two members up, it's the top two. No matter how many run, let's say 5 run, the top two get in. And with Miss Morgan's, it's the toughest seat. It's the top one.
Well, hopefully, you know, you guys will pull papers again and continue to try to be on the board with us. And if you're, you know, not, then other people hopefully will decide to get themselves involved and take a chance and run to help do everything we can for the kids in our town, so.
So could I, just back to the building committee, I would
Sure.
just say that the next meeting is February 10th. It's a Monday night at 6 o'clock in room 228 of this room. It is open to the public. I find it really interesting, so just wanted to share that date.
Absolutely. Any other business?
I was just curious, where'd you get the numbers for AP Gov? You said there was 4 kids in there?
Yeah.
There's actually 9.
Oh, 9? AP
Yeah.
Gov?
Yeah.
This is from Scott, and he didn't dispute it.
I don't have it in front of me, but I just assume if you have it, it's accurate. I'll double check.
AP Government, I know.
Yeah, I love that class.
You gotta, dude.
Let me check.
That-
Be with you in 2 minutes.
Okay. You weren't there when the report was there.
You should believe her.
I
No, I believe her, I just wanna,
There's 9.
because I thought it was low because I've been in the class several times, but
You should just double everything.
Are people
else.
able to audit AP classes, or do they have to be enrolled in them?
you have to be enrolled.
Thanks.
It is 9, thank you. Stop it.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
9s and 4s can look
That's
the same.
good. That's much better. Much better. That's higher than a lot of the other ones.
Can we remove that from that part from the meeting?
All right. So I guess with that, any other business other than correcting your principal? That's good. You got it from the principal's report.
I know what I was just saying.
So, all right. With that, I guess I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned. 4:00.